It's time for Screen Junkies Movie Fights.
Welcome to Movie Fights, everybody. We're about to movie fight and dance like no one's watching. Thank you for tuning in. And I got to ask one question. Where my owls at? Hoot hoot. What's up? Hashtag Owl Nation. Hashtag Percival's in the house. And yeah, for those of you who are like, what is he talking about? Yeah, I like to call the fans of Movie Fights Owl Nation. Enjoy. We've got a fun fight planned today, and we've got 3 awesome combatants to throw down. Let's see who we got. Oh, this gentleman, he writes the honest trailers. He does the comedies. He's an all-around awesome dude. Joe M. effing STARR. Joe,
Hal,
what's up, buddy?
I have been looking forward to this episode of Movie Fight since about 15 minutes ago when I realized I was doing it.
Yes, Joe.
Really looking forward to this fight.
I mean, Joe is a man of many talents, including the break glass in case of emergency talent when we have someone who cannot make it at the last moments. And Joe, I thank you. And I know your game. I know you come to play.
I got this.
You got this.
I've come to win.
I'm imagining you in a cubicle made of glass that just waiting for somebody to break it and release you.
You're not wrong. You're not off.
Yes,
Yeah.
Not far
he
off.
spends the day in a very uncomfortable
It's very small.
That's
He's
the
a
Gattaca I want to write.
Oh, yeah. Second up in chair number 2, you've seen her all over Twitch, YouTube, and she's finally making her return to Movie Fights. TRISHA HERSHBERGER.
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me back. I'm so excited to be back on Movie Fights after all this time.
It's great to have you back, TRISHA.
Yeah.
And your flair is off the charts today. Can you show
that off a
everyone your
little?
stylized Infinity Gauntlet?
Yes, I
Look at that.
absolutely can. I just got this about a month ago, and it's so cool.
It's kind of the best thing ever.
It's
Yeah.
kind of the best thing ever, and it's super comfortable and ladylike. I like the geek chic wear that's just got a touch of feminine.
Oh, you're crushing it, and you're
Are we playing for that?
You're you want to put it on the line?
No.
And-
This is not up for.
And you're rocking the Marvel corset.
Yeah, I got a little Marvel corset on
Nice.
that I have made with Castle Corsetry because I'm actually, if anyone, please tweet me if anyone has found this. I'm looking for like waist belts that are fandom and fandom theme, and I have not found any online. So the closest I found so far is underbust corsets, but I am on a mission so that you could wear like a plain black dress and then just throw in like a Star Wars belt or something like
anyone
that.
knows
It would be
about
awesome.
fashion, it
Flare
is-
it out with a belt.
The viewers of this show. So
I just learned a waist belt was a thing.
It is, yeah.
I thought they were just belts.
Right? Trish, I wish you luck in that endeavor. And I'd like to introduce our third contestant. Yay. She just made an awesome debut in the debut death match. She's a super funny comedian, just one of the best. Julia Prescott.
Yay!
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah,
here.
good to have you here.
Yeah.
I love that Homer napping shirt.
Thank
and
you.
you just you teamed up. You have a book that just came
I have
out.
a book that just came out.
That
yeah.
is Simpsons related.
It
right?
is Simpsons. I have a Simpsons podcast with Allie Gertz called
Yes.
Everything's Coming Up Simpsons on Max Fun. And then we just co-wrote a book, which if you're going to write a book, may I recommend co-writing it with somebody? Because then you just write half a book and then you take a nap. But we just came out with this book. It's on Triumph Books. It's called 100 Things Simpsons Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die. And yeah, it's out. You can read it. It's not in any particular BuzzFeed listicle order. Just flip through and have fun.
That's so awesome because that's a show that has so much lore and
Yeah.
so much to explore.
Yeah.
So that's very cool.
It was hard to determine. I mean, our publishers wanted us to cover everything, so we have a chapter called Who is Homer? And then we have a chapter about Hans Moleman's real age. So it's like
Nice.
everything.
Okay.
Nice.
So, yeah, so you got the broad and you got the deep cuts.
Yes.
Nice. Julia, thank you for being here.
Thanks for
Looking
having
forward
me.
to the fight. And deciding the fight will be myself and the Dans on the Dan Cam.
Yeah.
What up?
Hello.
Dan Murrell. You know what? I wasn't aware of this, Dan Murrell, our fact checker, but
Yes.
I see your Jaws phone case.
Yes.
It doesn't surprise me. I just didn't realize you had it. Is that new?
New-ish. I've had it for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Just
Just
switch
like
them up.
everything's coming out Millhouse for Dan, everything's coming up Jaws.
It's coming out Jaws for me.
Yes.
Jaws Nation, where you at? Chomp chomp. Where my sharks at?
Owls and sharks. Dan, good to see you, buddy.
Isn't that an indie comedy, Owl vs. Shark? That's a real movie, isn't it?
Eagle versus shark.
Eagle versus
Oh, Eagle
shark.
versus Shark.
versus Shark. Jermaine Clement.
Yeah, Jermaine Clement.
Yeah.
Funny
Indeed.
dude.
Dan on the facts and the judging, and we also have the voice of the people. She is delightful. She is hilarious. Welcome, Danielle Radford.
So I am the voice of y'all. There are lots of really fun polls if you go onto the Movie Fights Live hashtag. Those do not count for the games. The one that counts for this is the poll that is on YouTube, and that will be used as a tiebreaker. But we'll still be, even if it doesn't wind up having to be something that counts, we'll still be letting everyone know how you voted. If you are looking for how that works, click in the description box below or go on over to the chat. I'm sure someone has copy-pasted instructions on how to do that. But also, I'll be checking the Movie Fights Live, so if you have any additional answers, any insights, please send them my way. I think I need sharks now.
Sharks and owls, sharks and owls. You know what? This place is going to be a whole zoo before we're done. Thank you, Danielle. And just FYI, quick refresher, it is the first player to 4 points win. So we have 3 regular round questions, then our 2 top scorers will move on to the speed round. And someone could be down 3-zip in the speed round and make a furious comeback. We've seen some crazy turns of events. So without further ado, what do you say, JTE? Let's drop that package.
Prepare to die. Ladies and gentlemen, now
It's main event time.
Thank you, Thor. JTE, the best package in the biz. All right. This question, gamers, get excited. Red Dead Redemption 2, everybody's talking about it, and the biggest weekend gross of any piece of entertainment in history. That's kind of wild.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm a little bit broadsided by that fun fact. So, we ask today, who should star in and direct the Red Dead Redemption movie? Who should star in and direct the Red Dead Redemption movie? And we're going to start with my man, Joe Starr.
So, first of all, I want to say Jay Washington was going to be here today. You had a last-second audition, and you gotta make that money. You gotta take. So, good luck, sir. And I'm very excited to fight your answers on movie fights. So,
This is going to be great.
True story.
Red Dead Redemption,
story.
guys. I've been thinking about this a lot.
Have you played the game?
The first one.
Okay.
I have not played the second game yet, but I've been thinking about this question for minutes, and
Which could seem like a lifetime, so that chalks
so
up.
Red Dead Redemption, open world game, and I think even though the main the characters of Red Dead Redemption, it's not like a create a character thing like Skyrim, where you sort of put whatever you want into your character. This is like a defined like written character that has its own arc. You still sort of imprint yourself onto this main character. This is someone that you want to be. This is someone you're going to spend 366 hours of game time with. So don't you want to be somebody that on the big screen that everyone wants to be? And that's America's sweetheart, John Hamm.
Oh,
yeah.
As the lead
I'm not
of
supposed
Red
to
Dead
agree.
Redemption. No, you're not, Julia. John Hamm, he's got range. He's got that cold fury from Mad Men, that cruelty streak that you need in a Western revenge tale. He's done thrillers. He's done comedies. The guy has so much range. He could carry a movie like this. A Western can't just be pure action. A Western can't just be pure anger. It's got to have those moments of levity. It's got to have those moments of just pure cool. John Hamm can deliver those. My director, sometimes you don't want to get super creative in Hollywood. Sometimes you just want to... Sometimes you just want to be like, you know what? Yeah, that guy, James Mangold. He made Logan. He made 3:10 to Yuma. That guy made Logan. Have him do non-Wolverine Logan. People will love that. Pair him with John Hamm, Dream Team. That's my answer.
There you go. You got Joe's combo. Joe, I love that you pronounced Skyrim like a Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
I had to ask myself, like, have I?
Skyrim. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Aluminium.
It's from being from Louisville, where you don't pronounce any syllables in Louisville, so I say Skyrim.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right. Thank you, Joe Starr. Trisha, what do you got?
Okay, so I went with Josh Brolin as my leading man for Red Dead Redemption. I was just playing the second one this morning. It's very good if anyone hasn't had a chance to play it yet. I think Josh Brolin would be an excellent choice as John Marston, which is the protagonist from the first Red Dead Redemption, but let's set it during the time of his later life. So Josh Brolin then would be age appropriate if we're looking at it that way. I think that we have seen him do incredible things in No Country for Old Men. We've seen him as Dan White in Milk. We've seen him be that villain, so we know that he can be that Western gangster type. He's got that grit. He's got that the villainous streak. I mean, Thanos, Dan White. We've seen him as the villain in American Gangster, Planet Terror, like tons and tons of those. He was in a movie called Gangster Squad. If anyone has doubts about Josh Brolin's ability to be the hard gangster, it is there. And then I would have it directed by James Mangold as well.
Solid call.
Yeah, solid call. Thank you, Joe. And I would say, again, not only 3:10 to Yuma, where we've seen that he can do Western as a genre, so he could give life and love to this world, but also looking at Logan, we've got the gritty action with a lovable dark hero. And that's really what we're getting in Red Dead Redemption. So I think if 3:10 to Yuma and Logan had a baby, I think it would make a very nice, source-accurate depiction of what a Red Dead Redemption movie would be.
Right on. Okay, thank you, Trisha. Julia Prescott.
Yes, I'm here to be here. I thought you were going to intro my answer.
Oh.
No, why would you? Because you didn't do it for anyone else. Sorry.
Right on.
I'm learning in real time how to do this.
Oh, hell yeah.
Here's my answer.
Welcome to the fire.
Yeah. I believe that Red Dead Redemption, which I will admit is a piece of culture that I've not been exposed to at all in any form.
That's hard.
Besides hearing about it for today, but that's okay because I did some research and I found out that it was a Western, and I want to say that I want to do a two-hander, a writer-director star, maybe a three-hander, and my answer is Josh Gad.
Aha.
I believe that Josh Gad should write and direct this film and star in it. Because let's talk about what happens when Westerns come out and they're just beige, right? Or when movies come out and they're just beige. They don't have anything that pops with them. I'm going to pull a reference that you're not going to expect. Bohemian Rhapsody is coming out this weekend, and the reviews have not been good because it's just been beige. It's been very safe, and it is a very formulaic biopic of Queen, which is not what they deserve. They deserve more. And I believe the same thing with a Western, so I'm just going to go in that direction because I don't know Red Dead Redemption. I believe that it should be, something that kind of disrupts what the genre is. It should be something that, subverts what we expect for it. I believe that Josh Brolin and James Mangold are very good choices, but I feel like they're a little bit more on the beiger side. I don't know if you've been following Josh Brolin's Instagram, but I would rather pay full admission ArcLight prices to just watch a stream of his Instagram goofing off than I would him starring in another Western. And we all want to see him shirtless, but come on, we could also see that on his Instagram. I believe that Josh Gad is the correct choice for this because it is completely against type, even though as an actor, he's been trying to go into the more serious roles. And, we all saw him in the Orient Express, right? Wasn't that Murder on the Orient? Yes.
Yes,
We all
Murder on the
remember
Orient
that.
Express.
Yeah, that was the best movie of last year, I think. And and I want him to branch out from there. The last time that he had producing and writing credit on something was The Comedians, and I believe that there needs to be a palate cleanser in the pop culture for Josh Gad. And I also think that it is such a bizarre choice that would defy everyone's expectations that there would be think pieces written about it for, I'm going to say, at the very least 5 years after its release, and that is my answer.
Wow, and the Comedians with Billy Crystal, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it had, on paper, it should have succeeded for 7 seasons in a movie.
There you go. Fight it out, y'all.
I want to talk about the age appropriateness of a Josh Brolin versus, I feel like that was a jab at the eternal fountain of youth that is John Hamm. And I don't think you need to worry about age of appropriateness for a Western because everyone who's ever starred in a Western, and I include the young guns in this, looks like they're made out of a piece of old leather. There's just something about shooting in the desert that just automatically does that.
They've been through something tough, but I want to ask you if you are basing your casting of John Hamm on the character of John Marston, the former outlaw from the first Red Dead Redemption. Because he's about 25 in that game.
Let me tell you something about accurate facts from a video game movie. I don't want them. I don't want them. Anytime we try to make a video game movie where we're like, here's this thing from the game, and here's this thing from the game, and here's this thing with the game, we come up with a bad movie.
Yeah.
And further, with adventure games like this, it's the same reason why I don't want an Uncharted game, where you've already gotten a complete story and narrative. I already played it, I already experienced it. I don't necessarily need to see the whole thing. Give me something that feels Red Dead Redemption-y, but it's new, and give it to me with John Hamm and the absolute safest pick for director for this film,
Yes, absolutely.
James Mangold. I'm having a lot of hard times coming up with an argument against Josh Gad.
Thank you.
Really?
Yep. Thank you.
I really am.
Let me know.
Trish, can you
Let me know when
broadside,
you're ready, yes.
Can you broadside Josh Gad over this?
please.
So the argument that I would like to hinge on is the idea that everyone's seen too much beige, and any of the other choices that we had mentioned in our arguing would be too safe of picks for this movie. To that, I would say we have yet to see a video game movie that's done right, that's done well, that's been a big success. So the studios are still very, very hesitant to fund video game movies because we haven't seen them work out great. So I think we need a slam dunk on this one. It's too early to take a chance in the video game movie genre.
I disagree. I don't think that it's too early. I think that, let's think about it in the broad strokes of it. Why haven't a video game movie, why hasn't it worked? Because I do believe that they have been playing it a little too safe with the direct conversion of Final Fantasy and then Final Fantasy the movie or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that it needs to be something that is a big swing. And I also would say, I know that it sounds like I'm just saying the funny answer, which I am because I'm a comedian.
It is funny.
But I'm also thinking that, what's better to witness a hero's journey of a soft Josh Gad be put through that machine of the West and become, say, a John Hamm
The need
type.
for revenge turns him into chewing leather. I like it.
It's just, that's not what Red Dead Redemption is. Red Dead Redemption, in both the first and the second game, we're looking at a weathered criminal that has been a gangster for quite some time.
I understand. Sorry.
Which John Hamm can, definitely pull off. He's the villain in Kimmy Schmidt. He's a very dangerous individual in that show. If you haven't seen it, and here's a kicker.
It's a very funny show. He's still a funny character.
No, sure, absolutely, and a Western should have a little bit of levity. And here's something that I can't stop thinking about with John Hamm. Who's the king of the Western? Clint Eastwood. And who made his film debut with Clint Eastwood? John Hamm in 2000 Space Cowboys.
Oh my God!
I've just got to assume that those guys spent a lot of time on set together just talking about the ins and outs of the Western. That guy's been inside Clint Eastwood's head, and that's going to make him a fantastic lead for a Red Dead Redemption
Joe, have
movie.
we seen John Hamm be serious in a movie? Or is he still our comedy guy?
No,
because that's the complete wrong tone for Red Dead Redemption.
He was in a thriller in 2010 called Stolen, which is a pretty good heist movie.
Was it the sequel to Taken?
Yes, it was. It was the sequel to Taken, and
Swish.
then Returned is the Richard Linklater end of that trilogy. And again, you pair the safe choice, which I really think is Hamm. People want to see him succeed. People always root for this guy. So why not give him the most obvious? This is the obvious choice, and sometimes the obvious choice is just the good one. Put the Logan guy with the Mad Men guy.
I would not be unhappy with John Hamm on my screen, but I will say that you are never going to have the fans are going to find ways to be betrayed by whatever big screen adaptation of their favorite thing. You're never going to win with it, so you might as well go big or go home.
That's not true that you're never going to win with it. There is not a more passionate crowd out there than the fandom audience, than the nerd audience. And when something's done right,
with Last Jedi?
it is celebrated. When something's done right, I'm going to say in response to The Last Jedi.
Last Jedi's like, hey, how did I get pulled into this?
Right?
All right, let's move to our final thoughts here.
Great.
Joe, why don't you go ahead and sum it up, and then we'll go around the horn.
I think there is something to the obvious choice that sometimes doesn't seem like the sexiest, but it's the right choice. And then sometimes in the case of Jon Hamm, the obvious choice is also a very sexy choice. So boom, there you go. I honestly think this is a guy who's waiting for his leading man moment. I think that announcement online where it's Jon Hamm tapped to lead the Red Dead Redemption movie would break the internet. It would get people sort of super pumped and excited. And look. If you choose anyone to direct but James Mangold, the internet, those same passionate fans will be like, "Why isn't this film being directed by the man who directed Logan? This is absurd." So go with just the really clear, obvious pick, Hamm Mangold for 2018.
Thank you, sir. Trisha.
Hamgold.
Final thoughts. Neither Jon Hamm nor Josh Gad really hit the tone of what Red Dead Redemption is, and neither of them are the correct type for our protagonist. Jon Hamm, like it or not, now we've seen him be funny so many times. He's one of those actors that every time you see him on screen, he's Jon Hamm as that role. You can't be taken into that movie by him, or it's much harder now than it used to be for sure. He's just a funny guy, and the same thing with Josh Gad. He's the total wrong tone. Josh Gad's the total wrong tone for a Red Dead Redemption movie. Do we really want to see Olaf as a Western gang member? Or LeFou? I don't think that's where we need to go for Red Dead Redemption. That being said, we have seen Josh Brolin be an amazing villain who is still a villain that we like and that we side with. Look at Thanos. Like, that's what we need if we're going to go with John Marston or Arthur Morgan. He could do either of those roles, our two Red Dead Redemption protagonists, beautifully. And of course, James Mangold is the perfect choice to direct this film.
Thank you, Trish. Julia.
All right, Josh Brolin, just because he could does not mean that he should. Is this going to be just another bullet point on his extremely long IMDb page? I just feel like it's not going to be something that he cares about. But if you get a passion project from Josh Gad, his premiere as a director, that he has been working and slaving over, ignoring his young children to tweak and polish, this is his entry into that illustrious domain of comedy actors that have gone serious. We know how much Jim Carrey wanted it with The Majestic, and then he righted the wrong with Man in the Fucking Moon. Can I curse? I'm so sorry.
Go for it.
And I just feel like we're gonna watch a movie that's going to give a shit, and then come Oscar season, we're gonna go, you know what? It was a big risk, but I'm so happy I was here for the ride, because otherwise Red Dead Redemption, the movie, would be fucking forgotten, left to be a $5 Target DVD bargain bin, along with fucking, I don't know, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Dude, this is passion.
Wow. We wound up with Josh Gad lifting Oscar gold. Thank you, Julia, for that impassioned answer.
My pleasure.
All right, time. Dan Murrell, should we put the brakes on the F-bombs a little bit?
The 20 minutes that this video is monetized was nice, but
F-bombs.
Right, of course, I'm sorry.
That's okay,
It's the Gad in me.
I know, when you start talking...
Gaga for Gad.
When you start talking Gad, your language gets bad. Dan Murrell, factually.
Yes. Just a few things, a little bit more detail on that record. Red Dead Redemption 2 had a $725 million opening weekend. Woo! That eclipsed the previous record holder, which was Infinity War. When it came out, it had $640 million opening weekend.
Crazy.
The overall record holder was Grand Theft Auto 5. That made $1 billion over the same amount of time.
Again,
but it came out
Rockstar.
on a Tuesday, again with Rockstar, but it came out on a Tuesday, so the weekend wasn't. So it's the opening weekend record that Red Dead Redemption 2 holds.
Gotcha.
Josh Gad was credited as a producer on The Comedians, but not a writer, only as an EP on that film. Jon Hamm's role in Space Cowboys, it was his feature debut. He was young pilot number 2.
Fantastic job.
Directed by Clint Eastwood. And on the subject of John Marston's age, he was 38 in the first Red Dead Redemption game, and he is 26 in the new one, which takes place
I feel
earlier.
like Josh Gad can play both of those ages.
He is either 14 or 104.
Yeah, he's there.
Dan, I thank you, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a fun battle. This was a fun question to answer. And Julia, I loved your passion, but I feel like there's just a little too much against Gad. He hasn't played this type of character before. It might not be quite the fan service we're looking for.
I think it's setting the stage for his redemption.
And the fact that
a Red Dead.
And the fact that, as you said, this would be his directing debut, his premiere as a director.
Yes.
I don't know if this is the right vehicle. Maybe he should stay in his lane a little bit more. I don't want to crap on his dreams or anything. But so for me, it came down to Joe and Trish, and I think Trisha just had more of a point-by-point breakdown of Brolin's career. And as much as fun as I love the notion of the news of John Hamm being cast in Red Dead breaking the internet, I think Trish had the more complete answer. So I'm going Trisha with Josh Brolin and James Mangold. Dan?
I felt like there were two components to this answer that you had to sell equally, because it was about not just your actor and director. If you lean too far to one or the other, I think that might not have helped you very much. And I thought the most well-balanced argument, as far as both for and against, was Trisha's argument. I felt like Joe got a little too hung up on John Hamm, as did everyone else.
Who can blame me?
Hung up on Ham.
And Josh Gad, just wasn't working for me. So I got to go with Trisha.
All right, Trisha takes the point. Danielle, what'd the internet have to say?
With 41% Josh Brolin, James Mangold.
Damn it.
With 39% John Hamm, James Mangold.
Whoa!
With 18% for Josh Gad.
You know what? Respectable.
You got it.
That's a strong 18.
That's a strong 18.
Danielle, what else did you see that caught your fancy?
Oh, well, this was a really good one. So at JPEG 1098 on Twitter said Red Dead Redemption, Bradley Cooper as John Marston and Ridley Scott as the director. It will be a hard R movie at that point.
Oh,
Only
tasty.
if he does the Jackson Maine voice, or I won't.
Just go to all the horses.
Maybe it's time to let the old ways die.
I would watch that.
And then halfway through, he just loses the voice for 20 minutes. Anyway.
Have we gotten any
Spoilers.
owl or shark memes?
We have gotten so many sharks.
Great.
Go find the sharks.
Uh-oh.
A lot of people apologizing for never seeing Jaws, and they are apologizing directly to Dan.
I accept your apology only if you go watch Jaws.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how you can apologize.
Yep, don't apologize to
Don't
Spielberg.
apologize, watch.
Great. Dan, you are, for me, you are the preeminent Jaws fan.
I'm one. There are many more also.
Yeah, indeed.
I love that movie very, very much.
Right on,
awesome.
sir. All right, so after one question, it is Trisha 1, Julia and Joe 0 looking to get on the board. And let's move on to question number 2. Tiffany Haddish's new movie, Nobody's Fool, comes out this weekend, marking her 4th big screen movie this year and the 3rd in just the last 6 months. She is on a roll. And blew up after Girls Trip and killing it. So, we ask you to pick one actor that you would choose to star in every movie for an entire year. Okay? If you had to see one actor appear in every movie that year. That's like lots of movies.
Yeah.
Who would it be? And this is question number 2. So we're going to start with player number 2, Trish.
What a hard question,
Right?
first of all, but I'm pretty confident in my answer. I chose Donald Glover as the actor that I would like to star in every movie for an entire year because everything he touches turns to gold. This man has maybe sold his soul to the devil, I don't know, but somehow he is an amazing actor, comedian, singer, writer, producer, director, rapper, DJ. He's good at everything he does. He's won an Emmy. Everybody loves him. He's one of the most likable actors right now, so I feel like he would keep the box office thriving, unlike maybe some other stars who we might get sick of after the first quarter of the year, and then if the movie industry died out, where would we all be? It'd be the most devastating thing. But we've seen him do all different types of range, so much diversity, that I think that we would have a good chance of getting quite a few hits out of that year instead of just getting bored.
All right, Trish on the board with Donald Glover. Julia.
My pick is Tilda Swinton. because I feel like her versatility as an actor is, it really knows no bounds. I mean, there's so many articles on the internet that say that she is an alien from another planet, and she has not disputed it. And I feel like she is the kind of actor. What you need for this situation is, I think that it needs to be like sort of hiding in plain sight, because I think we're all going to start to deteriorate as a race watching movies that are all featuring one person. I think that we're all going to get fatigued no matter who they are. And let's be real, Donald Glover needs to have a starring bill in every single thing that he touches. But Tilda Swinton, on the other hand, she can play a fixture in the background of the new Harry Potter movie that has no lines and no name and is just in the background of every shot. And she would be fine with that. And nobody would be surprised to hear that Tilda Swinton was wallpaper for 2.5 hours, and I think that's what we need for this.
All right, thank you, Julia, coming in with Tilda Swinton. Joe.
Do you have our answers written down by any chance?
I do.
What's mine?
Yours is formerly Jay's answer. It is
thank you.
Samuel L. Jackson.
So I'm arguing Samuel L. Jackson. I think it's the only obvious choice for this. Here's the thing. Donald Glover is great. He's the hot new thing, and Tilda Swinton is this incredible character actor. But sometimes you just want to know exactly what you're getting. You just want some good security, and that's Samuel L. Jackson just being Samuel L. Jackson over and 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 over again. This question was inspired by Tiffany Haddish. Samuel L. Jackson's pretty much in the same amount of movies. And if that's not factually true, it's emotionally true, and it has never bothered me once to see Samuel L. Jackson appear on screen, whether it's across from Ryan Reynolds or it's across from John Travolta or it's across from Eddie Murphy, and just yell something in a Samuel L. Jackson kind of way. We can watch it over and over and over again. It's the most amazing kind of junk food, just watching Samuel L. Jackson yell, whether he's getting eaten by a shark or just warning people that they need to hold their butts. Or asking what's in your wallet. You never ever get tired of the man. So that's my answer. Samuel L. Jackson. He operates on his own scale of actor rating.
Thank you, sir. All right, fight it out, y'all.
All right, who wants to go first?
Jump into the fray.
I'll jump in there. Yes, Samuel L. Jackson deserves to star in all these movies, and I hope he stars in them well.
All right, Joe, you
I'd love to see you filibuster.
Joe, you said that you just love hearing Samuel L. Jackson yell things over and over and over, and that makes a good movie.
America does.
I think you also argued against yourself when you said that we have seen him do that time and time again, and we've gotten the same thing over and over and over. Do we want another year of that?
Yeah.
There have been some really bad Samuel L. Jackson movies.
No, but Samuel L. Jackson has never been bad in a movie. And the problem with Donald Glover, gold, everything's going to be gold, everything he touches turns to gold. Are you familiar with the tale of King Midas, Trisha? Because when there's too much gold loses value. Take a much less precious, dependable stone like Samuel L. Jackson, who's always going to be there, who's always going to deliver, who's always a solid anniversary present.
I'm going to argue that you enjoying him is one man's opinion. Surely. I think what's really going on is that nobody knows how to tell him no. I think everybody's really just scared of him, and so he's able to just do. Did you see friggin' Kingsman?
Yeah.
Did you see him try that weird accent for the first time in his life?
And it was great. And
it was ill-advised, Joe, and you know it.
But you know what? Everyone came out of that movie going, what was Samuel L. Jackson doing?
A lot of people say
Sam,
that.
and then they shook their hands and their heads and they're like,
I think
Samuel L. Jackson.
you came
and
out
then they went
saying
and
that.
saw another Sam. But did that deter you from wanting to see Samuel L. Jackson again in the future?
Not ever again, but in every movie for an entire year. Snakes on a Plane, Left U Terrace, Black Snake Moan. I could just go on.
I'm going to say that Samuel L. Jackson is like a Louis C.K. comeback. And that it is not something that we asked or prepared for.
It was just
Sometimes he's just at the behind the credits.
I'm going to counter that on every level. First of all, yeah, snakes on a plane. It led to everyone's favorite line of that year, and now it has been immortalized as everyone's favorite TV edit of all time.
We
That's
all
the
love
power
him
of
yelling
Samuel L.
that
Jackson.
line. But that doesn't mean
that is
movie's
factually
good.
accurate. Sorry to talk over you.
No, that's what Movie Fights is about.
It's just, that's what they love. They love us all just yelling and shouting over each other. I think Donald Glover is incredibly talented, but he's a sexy new toy, and Samuel L. Jackson is the teddy bear you've had since you were a kid, and you're always going to go back to that teddy bear. Tilda Swinton is a great performer, but eventually starring or heavily starring Tilda Swinton I think it's gonna start to bore me.
But
Whereas
that's not my
Samuel
point.
keeps me coming back.
Joe, that's not my point. She will not be starring in it because she is the actor's actor. Like, this girl, she can do whatever the hell she wants. She can do comedy, she can do drama, she can play an alien from space. She can also play ill-advised other races that are not her own. That was a thing that happened as well. Listen, time for guess. So anyway, I think that we would never get fatigued by Tilda Swinton. And I want to bring this other point to the court of today. According to her IMDb page, she has won one Oscar. I have a phone because nobody gave me a pen. She has won one Oscar, but she has not won two, and I believe that
She needs that second.
She needs that second win.
I also love Tilda Swinton. I think she's an amazing actress. However, I think you argued 100% against yourself, because the question is, what actor would you like to see star in every film for a year? And you said that she wouldn't be starring. She would be great as a background wallpaper role, which I agree. She's a fantastic supporting character, and I would be down to see her be a supporting character in every movie for a year.
I believe that all
but
actors are
starring.
I believe that everybody on the screen is a star.
There are no small parts.
There are no small parts.
Only small tildes.
She'd only be background.
No, she would be a range. She'd be a range. She would give us something new every time. You know?
I think that
her choices are so large and so incredible, but I think starring in every film for a year, we would get sick of that really quickly.
Trish,
I
do
think
me a
she's
favor.
a chameleon.
Perhaps, Trish, go ahead and roll this into your final thoughts, please.
Okay, I'm going to roll this into my final thoughts to say that if we want to see a diverse range of movies over an entire year, we want to see comedies, we want to see romance, we want to see gritty crime dramas, we want to see horror. Donald Glover can do all of that. So every movie genre will be successfully satisfied over that year. He's also young enough that he can play a wide variety of ages, and it's high time that we get some more diversity in Hollywood. So if every movie was starring Donald Glover for the entire year, we would feed those urges, whereas I think that Tilda Swinton takes too large of choices. She's a little bit too out there to be the starring role in every single film for a year. And Samuel L. Jackson, we've seen it. We've seen it time and time again. He does the same thing all the time, and I think audiences will get bored.
All right. Thank you, Trish. Julia.
Okay, so I think I've said enough about Samuel L. Jackson, so I'm just going to address Donald Glover. If you read the New Yorker profile on Donald Glover that came out about, I want to say like 3 or 4 months ago, you can fact check me on that. But in that article, one of the larger themes was that his creativity is motivated by being bored easily. So that he even said within that article that he wasn't sure how long he was going to be doing Atlanta. He was only going to do it as long as it was fun. He was talking about already quitting the music game. And even though he got cast in Star Wars, he had contemplated not doing big movies like that. I think that over the span of a year, Donald Glover will get bored. And whatever contract this magical movie realm has for him, he's going to get out of it, because also the one thing that Donald Glover does above all else is he does what he does. He does not bow to anybody, and I think that it's going to be unsustainable. And then Tilda Swinton is going to be the best.
All right, thank you, Julia. Joe.
First, I did want to give a shout out to Trisha for giving this question the added depth of the industry tanking. If this person, I really thought that was funny. Samuel L. Jackson has sort of this leading man's curse, where it's like there's that knock against Samuel L. Jackson where it's like it's the same thing in and out and in and out, and we always know what to expect. And yet, if you look at his range, Pulp Fiction to Unbreakable to even like a funny action comedy like Hitman's Bodyguard, yes, it's Samuel L. Jackson, but it's always Samuel L. Jackson taking you in a slightly different direction. I think he is this wonderful balance of movie star and character actor that not a lot of actors are able to hit. There's that charisma there that can drive a movie and open a movie, but there's also that character actor side of him that where the really kind of cool and interesting and different choices keep coming from, where people can sit back and say, you know what, I didn't expect a weird, creepy guy in the wheelchair opposite Bruce Willis from Samuel L. Jackson. I didn't expect that from him. I didn't expect, for better or worse, weird lisp guy that loves McDonald's from Samuel L. Jackson. They're not necessarily always going to be good, but I'm always interested in what the guy is going to bring to the table. Whereas, Donald Glover, talented guy, and he's sort of he's super hot right now. Atlanta's great. He's a strong performer in it. But in terms of movies, Solo was a really good Billy D impression, but it didn't give me any sense of like what Donald Glover can really bring to the table as a leading man in feature film after feature film. And I think Tilda Swinton is the Bjork of Hollywood, and I mean that in the best possible way.
Sounds like you're voting for me. Can I?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
You've already closed, Prescott.
Oh, but I have one last.
But I think she's so outlandish that she can't quite hit that perfect balance that Samuel L. Jackson can hit of sort of like weird, interesting, unique choices and just straightforward, I'm going to get out there and put on the movie star face and deliver the lines and open a movie.
Thank you, Joe Starr. Boom! That is the end of round number 2. Dan Murrell, would you kindly favor us with some facts and then take us into your decision on this question?
Sure. Joe had said that it feels like Samuel L. Jackson appears in the same number of movies every year that Tiffany Haddish does. So I went into the very limited data on Tiffany Haddish. Really, this year, 2018, was her first full year after her breakout last summer.
This was her Samuel L. Jackson year.
Going as far as this year, Samuel L. Jackson will appear in 4 films this year, but only star in one of them, which hasn't come out yet. Good. He's had cameos and voice appearances in other films. Tiffany Haddish also in 4 films this year, but 3 starring roles and a supporting role. She has 4 in line for next year. Samuel L. Jackson has 5 in production for next year. So their numbers are roughly equivalent, but I think the edge of like who's been more upfront, at least this year, has been Tiffany Haddish. But number-wise, it's very equal. Sure. So I'll call that a draw on the fact checking for that. And yeah, as far as that goes, that's all I've got factually.
Thank you.
As far as my pick, I thought this was very good debate. I think that Tilda Swinton, for my money, was the right pick, but I think Joe ended up making my favorite argument, and so I would go with Joe and Samuel Jackson. His closing, the idea that people sort of paint him into a corner, but he has had a lot of roles where people say, I did not expect that from him. His variability, that won me over, and I think that TRISHA actually dinged Julia pretty well on the fact that it does say star in and not in the background of or just somewhere in, and that for me was a pretty critical hit as far as Tilda's role in each of the films. I thought Joe argued the question better, so I'm going with Joe.
I just thought we were having fun, Dan.
I would watch the Harry Potter movie, and they'll make it eventually, the Harry Potter movie starring a piece of furniture.
Yeah. I just want people to go, that was Tilda Swinton? Anyway.
Part of the fun, is taking this, just like getting down to biz with
Absolutely.
It, and really, so that is a great point, Dan, thinking about the question, because the question does say star. So how many stars does a film have? How many? Because that's kind of where I'm at,
Judge's discretion. These things are not always easy to parse.
Can someone be a co-star? They're still a star. Can someone appear? So
what if they just played a star?
Yeah, what if they just played a star?
That is what Tilda Swinton is perfect to do.
Right. So you mentioned her versatility. You mentioned all the roles that she played. So that your argument's right there. Trisha, I don't feel like we painted enough of a versatile picture of Donald Glover. I mean, he does a lot. Like, he's a multi-hyphenate, and he just, so many mediums. He's amazing. Man, but it came down to Joe and Julia for me. And Joe, they dinged you hard. You came back real good at the end there, though. You really sold it. You know what? I feel like the audience needs to decide. I'm gonna go Tilda on this one because I don't think there's a hard and fast star. I think there are going to be many stars. Someone can be a smaller role, but it can be on the list of starring blank, blank, blank.
Yes.
Great job,
So,
guys.
by a hair. Julia. Danielle, take us there.
All right, with 57% of the vote, Samuel L. Jackson.
Bam.
25% of the vote goes to Donald Glover. Tilda gets 17.
You lost 1%.
Last time.
So CJ Walker 82 on Twitter offered Bradley Cooper, saying, "Guy has so much range. He can do comedy, drama, action, rom-com, and voiceover
of
work,
Bradley fans
and now
in the crowd
musical
today.
talent." Also, quite a few people thought that Julia was talking about Danny Glover.
Or Trisha.
Trisha.
Yeah, they thought that you were
That's
saying Danny Glover, not Donald.
Different pick.
Very different argument.
Different pick.
Very versatile.
Very different.
I hear that argument.
One's in the very twilight of his career. You know what? I bet Tilda Swinton could play an owl. That's
totally
personable.
could.
But when you were talking about Donald Glover, it made me think from the same show, Atlanta, Lakeith Stanfield. He is has such a. I think he's building a great body of work. I think he can do a lot of different things in movies. So,
Have you noticed that you now do owl gestures without realizing it?
Yeah.
It's part of me.
I will say one thing about Tilda Swinton's versatility.
Yes. Then
Can
question
anyone
3.
guess how old Tilda Swinton is?
I wouldn't even begin to try.
No,
106?
I don't know.
She's 58 years old.
No.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Man.
With that, let's move on to round number 3.
I learned that today. It blew my mind.
It is. We are standing with a score of Joe 1, Trisha 1, Julia looking to get on the board, okay? Question 3. Sigourney Weaver recently praised Neil Blomkamp's canceled Alien sequel. What abandoned or canceled film project should have been made? What abandoned or canceled film project should have been made? It's question number 3, so we start with player number 3, Julia.
I'm happy to say that my answer for this question is E.T. 2. If anyone has ever been on the E.T. ride at any of the Universals in Hollywood or Orlando, then you have been treated to what would have been a celebration of the journey that we were to go on for E.T. 2. As an audience, we would go to E.T.'s planet. We would understand who Botanicus is, which is his mentor, a Yoda-like mentor. The second half of the E.T. ride is just it is an acid trip into the depths of Steven Spielberg's daddy issues through aliens that look whimsical and accoutrement that was bought at Spencer's Gifts in 1997. But it's a journey that I want to go on, and I want to see what modern technology would do with it today.
All right, thank you. E.T. 2, Nocturnal Fears. Joe. Oh, do you want to see?
I'm arguing Nightmare Before Christmas 2?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Guys, in the pantheon of, the history of failed legendary projects, I think Nightmare Before Christmas 2 is definitely absolutely the one that should have been made. Look, Nightmare Before Christmas didn't just launch a popular genre, it didn't just launch a popular soundtrack, it launched a popular lifestyle. People have defined their lives around Nightmare Before Christmas. It launched a very popular mall store chain. I think you could, and more. It also launched Burton and the creative team around that film in an even bigger way than even say Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands had at that point. I think. Burton's attempts to return to the medium have been less than stellar. I think Nightmare Before Christmas still sits atop of the stop motion world, and I think there is enough space there to really knock out some really cool new songs and a really cool, fun new story. And really, those are second and third to just atmosphere and fantastic visuals. And I think there's enough there that you could have returned to Nightmare Before Christmas 2 and really just kind of like soaked it for a little more money and sold another really, really great soundtrack. Nightmare Before Christmas.
Right on. Shout out to Hot Topic. Trisha, what do you got?
I am going to go with At the Mountains of Madness, the sci-fi horror novel from H.P. Lovecraft that Guillermo del Toro has been dying to do for years. This is a passion project of his, and I think it's pretty easy to see how Guillermo del Toro could do a Lovecraft story and really bring it to life. I mean, monsters, alternate reality. This story that goes with At the Mountains of Madness is an expedition to Antarctica goes wrong, and they discover a secret society that's never been touched of alien life forms, and people go crazy, and it's very Lovecraftian in all the best ways. But Del Toro's passion for this is one of the reasons why I think we need to see this made. Not only is the story amazing, and Lovecraft is very in right now. I don't know that it was ever out, but it's definitely in right now. Del Toro wrote the script in 2006. He wrote it as an R-rated, nasty, like real horror, and we've seen the success of things like Deadpool and some just really R-rated commercial successes, when the only reason it was shot down by studios before was because they were afraid to go with that R rating. It is now the time. People who have seen the script have jumped on board. Big people, including James Cameron, Tom Cruise, both gave their support morally and financially that they wanted to see this made. I mean, let's just take a look at Pan's Labyrinth. Take a look at Hellboy. This is the perfect story to be told by Del Toro, and I cannot believe this movie has not been made after all these years.
Okay, fight it out, y'all.
I think there's something to be said for, beyond if someone has a passion for it. Sometimes an artist has a need to return to something. I think Tim Burton has fallen a bunch over the last couple of years with his Wonderland movies. Were rough. And sometimes you really just need to pull back and return to your claymation Dead Trees roots, and go back and play in a yard that you're super familiar with, that you're super comfortable in, so that you can thrive a little bit. Which is not the most necessarily exciting answer in the world, but I think it's a valid one. The Cthulhu thing, the hard R, cosmic horror, do we really want a new Event Horizon, you guys? Let's leave the cosmic horror genre of Event Horizon alone.
It takes place in Antarctica.
Well, sure. You call it Antarctica, I call it the cold dead of space. Both of them are cold. Both of them, not a lot of people. They're basically the same movie. Dr. Grant would probably be in both of them.
Joe, I have some questions for you.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay, so Nightmare Before Christmas 2. We all know the drama and falling out between Tim Burton and Disney. As far as I know, Disney still owns the rights to Nightmare Before Christmas. So if they were to make a sequel, it probably wouldn't be Tim Burton. He would not. I would understand.
Can I raise a counterpoint to that?
Sure.
I do believe that Tim Burton is releasing a Dumbo movie in the not too distant future, so I don't understand what the relation is and how they would not get along for a Nightmare Before Christmas 2. Also, he didn't direct Nightmare Before Christmas; it was his idea.
Yeah, it was.
So let us all remember that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know who has the rights to that still. I just know it was a messy falling out, and so it might be tough to get that back. Would Danny Elfman be involved again? And historically, in Disney sequels, if you've ever seen Aladdin 2, any of the other Disney sequels, they're not really that great on story. What would the story be? Jack has learned his lesson. I mean, at this time, is Santa learning to be scary? Where are we going with this?
The interesting thing about life is you don't just learn one lesson and then you're a fully formed adult or a fully formed skeleton. There's a lot of lessons that a grown-ass skeleton can learn, and in tandem to that, there's a whole bunch of doors with different holiday shapes on them that he can learn those lessons from. People have been saying for years, what are behind the other doors? Let's find out. And of
Julia,
course,
I haven't heard as much about E.T. 2.
Yeah, I would like to talk about E.T. 2. I want to say that E.T. 2 is the best choice in this category because that script is locked and loaded, baby. He wanted to do it almost immediately after E.T., but then, he got swept up in other projects and they just couldn't. I think that the Universal ride wasn't hitting the right audiences that they liked, and so he then decided to go into more serious war war movies. And I would also say that E.T. 2 would be great because I feel like with Stranger Things emulating Amblin type tones and a lot of those other sort of like 80s nostalgia throwback TV shows and movies, that it is the prime time for E.T. to take center stage again and, teach us all how to love again and teach us all, that especially in the current political arena, the otherness and that sort of theme with E.T. being an alien, I believe that this could be the correct allegory for the correct time for racial injustice.
Okay, I have something to say about ET2 Nocturnal Fears, and maybe my facts are way off base, so I'm interested to hear what Dan has to say. But I thought that Nocturnal Fears was like a 9-page treatment written by Melissa Matheson after something must have gone very bad in her life, because the entire second act is pretty much like kiddie torture porn, where they go into the woods because they think ET's returning, and instead they find these horrible carnivorous, like, evil aliens that they're then tortured to, and Drew Barrymore's character screaming for her mommy. Mm-hmm. And, like, it's like this really horrific thing. So when your argument's like teaching kids to love again through the power of ET, that's not what Nocturnal Fears is by any means, if that's the movie you're talking about that was canceled that should be made.
I mean, that is true, what you just said.
Okay.
But in the industry, as we all know, several polishes and passes can be made to a treatment to turn it into a script. And so I think that they're going to bring it to the room and try to, incorporate some of the core themes from the original E.T. into it to kind of shape it into something. They wanted it to be a little bit edgier than the original E.T., which I believe that in this, I mean, again, Stranger Things was like the edgiest of that kind of Amblin type of tone. I believe that it's the time.
Go ahead and roll this into your final thoughts, Julia.
Okay, great. So I want to say that Deadpool, Trish, you made the comment about Deadpool being an example of horror and its popularity. Deadpool is not a real horror movie. It is superhero snark with funny gore, which I believe undercuts any sort of horror elements that it may have. While I agree that Nightmare Before Christmas 2 is something that the people want, and I see them at Disneyland every day, not every day, but you know what I mean, like, just eager and hungry for it. I believe that it could be something that, I don't think that you can go home again with Nightmare Before Christmas 2. I think that no matter what they do, it's going to be a disappointment, and the only way that they would be able to make it not a disappointment is if they say didn't have Jack Skellington be the main character, that instead it was another character sort of going through that hero's journey again, and maybe with another holiday, but we never know. And then I think also that a whole new album of songs is probably unlikely, because as we saw with Mamma Mia 2, they didn't even bother to inject...
Mamma Mia argument.
It's the Mamma Mia 2 paradox. They didn't even bother to do new songs. They just redid the first ones, which they knew is what we wanted, and I believe that the creators of Nightmare Before Christmas 2, whoever they may be, Tim Burton or not, I think that it would be a similar situation. I also think that Nightmare Before Christmas was made at a time in Tim Burton's career where he was a little bit thirstier, and I believe that those days have long since passed. And I think the last time that we saw just a little bit of that thirst was with Frankenweenie, and if I do say so, I think that a lot of that was due to the screenwriters who also co-wrote Ed Wood, which is the best Tim Burton movie of all time.
All right. Thank you, Julia. Back around to Joe.
I agree that I think Tim Burton's cred had took off a lot because of the team he surrounded himself with. Selwig, the team that wrote Beetlejuice, the team that wrote Ed Wood. And I think that's another reason why you return to something like Nightmare Before Christmas 2 and actually give those people their just return to the project. I feel like you could show the original Nightmare to fans now, and the fact that Tim Burton doesn't appear in the directed by, like, blows people's minds. He's so, like, solidly connected to that. So it's also sort of another chance to be like, this was Elfman, this was Selwig. There's like this huge team behind this thing that really made it work. I think Danny Elfman has grown so much since then as a musician, as a composer, that I think he could actually do some really, really incredible stuff for this musical. And whether you kept it Jack Skellington or whether you made it the next generation and it's Jack Skellingson and he goes to St. Patrick's Day Land or, wherever it is that you go, I think there's a fun story that you can mine in this world. I think as long as you keep it bleak and you keep it dark and you keep that fun spirit and don't Disneyfy it too much and lose that sort of twistedness that made it so attractive to begin with, I think you have a really good movie. I think Cthulhu projects don't get made because Cthulhu projects just don't work. At some point in development, someone points at them and says, what are we doing? What are we really, Deep Ones and the Squid Man and guys, what is this? And then it just kind of goes on the back burner. I think that there's a reason why they stay in the deep. And E.T. too, I think that the time has come and gone. The crappy thing about Stranger Things is it's like the John Carter of Mars paradox, where people saw John Carter and they were like, this feels like Star Wars! And it's like, well, John Carter inspired those things, whereas people would go see E.T. 2 with their little grubby hands and their little young faces, and they would go, this ripped off Stranger Things! And us as adults would have to be like, I hate you, but Nightmare Before Christmas, just do the same thing, again, different and slightly better.
I thank you, Joe Starr. Trisha.
Okay, so in regards to ET2 Nocturnal Fears, I feel like Julia made a really good argument for an ET2, but not necessarily specifically Nocturnal Fears, which is really like a 9-page horrible fanfic that's just gone completely awry. No one wants to see kiddie torture porn. That sounds awful. It's mental and physical torture of kids. So we'll pass on that one. As far as Nightmare Before Christmas 2, I would say, Joe, when you say that it was bigger for Tim Burton than Beetlejuice or Edward Scissorhands, that might have been because the age that you were when you saw it, that Nightmare Before Christmas being a children's film was more on your radar than those other two. I would also say that The Nightmare Before Christmas 2, that story is being continued very well in comics right now. So I don't know that we need to see it in a forced, contrived plot with Jack Skellington finding something new. It's like the sequel of Aladdin, I'll go back to that, is like Jasmine and Aladdin getting married. I mean, every hero has one big story that their life centers around, and I just feel like we've seen Jack's. Anything we see after that is going to be secondary to his first.
Can I just, sorry.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
It's not true.
And then to drive it home, at the Mountains of Madness, for when Julia said that Deadpool could not be used because it's not a horror. My point about Deadpool was showing that an R-rated movie can be a commercial success, can make a studio money, and that it did. And as far as Lovecraft movies not being made because there's something about them that needs to stay deep, we have seen with the onslaught of Dungeons and Dragons entertainment and popularity that's out there right now, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf, all of these tabletop games that have just come into the forefront for everyone, even though some people, the minority, have been playing them for decades now. Now they are popular. Now's the time. Strike that audience. They're hungry for more. Look at those Arkham Horror board games that are so popular right now that people just love. And Del Toro would be the perfect director to do this, not only because of his passion for this specific project, but also because he's been working on it for so long. It's so well thought out. It's not going to be a money grub off of a franchise that's already around and they're just hoping to reclaim that audience from the original. This is a brand new movie that people haven't seen before, and it needs to be made. He's hot off The Shape of Water. Come on, studios, let's do it.
All right, time. That is our round. Boom. Dan Murrell, take us to the fact zone.
Disney does still own the rights to The Nightmare Before Christmas. They reportedly proposed a sequel in 2001 with computer animation that Tim Burton convinced them to drop. Nocturnal Fears was a 9-page treatment from Melissa Matheson, who wrote E.T. It did feature scenes with Gertie crying for help while the children were being interrogated and or examined by aliens with razor-sharp teeth, but E.T. would come in at the end and rescue them. And the Mamma Mia 2 soundtrack is not all reused music. I looked up the two. I looked them up next to each other. It's about a third reused and 2/3 of new songs. So
I look at the world a third full, so that's how I do it.
Thank you, Julia. And thank you, Dan, for those facts.
Yes.
So, we had some strong arguments here, and all interesting ventures. But when it came down to it, the person who had the most vivid picture, who really incorporated the director's filmography, and who brought the passion at the end of the day, and it was TRISHA for me. And she also had some good dings on the other competitors. Joe, again, I thought I love Jack Skelling's son. I do
puns, Hal.
Yeah. Oh, I loves them. Keep them coming.
I do.
And Julia, you painted an interesting picture of this the ET2 and taking me back to the ride and incorporating Stranger Things. But yeah, Trisha got it for me. So it's one for Trish. Dan.
Yeah, Joe was doing well for me, but then he closed his closing argument. Just like, just do the same thing again, but different. It's like, well, that doesn't sound very appealing to me. And also when Joe was like, what do you want, another Event Horizon? I'm like,
Kinda.
yeah, kinda.
As soon as I said it, I was like, yeah.
That and also, I thought Trisha tied in why it should have been made, why it would work in today's current climate. The demand for it is there. He's in a different place in his career. He's hot off The Shape of Water. I just thought it all came together for me, and so I also agree with Trisha and At the Mountains of Madness.
Bam. Trisha, could you do me a favor and snap your finger with the Infinity Gauntlet on
Are
it?
half of us going to disappear?
We'll find out. Still here. Danielle, what did the internet have to say?
All right, so for the poll, it was 52% at the Mountain of Madness, 35% for Nightmare Before Christmas 2, Nocturnal Fears with 11%.
The drop.
Going over to Twitter, FastDave17 said the Fatty Arbuckle picture with Farley or Candy or Belushi. That sounds great. I can think of many reasons why that is never going to happen, but it does sound really good. All of you should be over on the Movie Fights Live hashtag to see some of the answers from this one. This one was where people really got into it. There's too many good ones to read. Also, I have to shout this out because it's made me the happiest person in the entire world.
Yeah.
Someone sent us a meme that they did, Clowny J. It's paws, so it's Jaws, but with a corgi at the bottom with the shark fin.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nice.
So you guys should check that out. It is pretty great.
Pretty awesome.
Hey, dude, next time add an owl in there. You know what I'm saying?
Or don't.
That classic catchphrase.
Owls don't have paws, Hal.
That's true. They have talons.
They have talons.
Yeah.
Danielle, thank you so much. And I just thought the Confederacy of Dunces is one of my favorite books that I heard about being made several times, but they've never gotten around to it. Make that, please. Okay, great. So we're headed to the speed round. It's Trisha with 2, Joe with 1. Julia, you valiant effort, very
Thank you.
funny. A lot of cool
first
stuff.
appearance.
Oh, please stay.
Do I
Don't
stay?
leave.
You stay right
I
there.
thought I went and got parking validation.
Oh, that'll happen
That was
after
my
the show.
prize.
After the show.
Great.
No, actually, in the full version
I
of the show,
don't get it
we
because
play
I
for that.
lost.
Yes.
Oh, great, great.
Julia, awesome having you.
Thank
and
you. It's
lo-
been awesome being here.
a lot
in
of good,
my
funny stuff.
Deteriorating ratings of the polls, but it's okay.
Happens
At least
to
I'm
the best of
consistent.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, I might come to you for an opinion as we go
perfect.
through.
And I'm
You get a fun job
And it's like
now.
a $30 max on parking, so you're fine.
Oh, great.
All right, it is speed round time.
Oh no.
So the way the speed round works, again, I will ask the question, shout out your answers. First person to answer will be able to elaborate on their answer first, and they'll get 20 seconds. Their opponent will get 20 seconds, and then rebuttals, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. Players, ready for this?
Never. But let's do it.
Great. And Danielle will be chiming in with her own opinion now.
I'm a person.
No time for the polls and speed round. You are a person, and then some. Thank you. Here we go. Question number 1 in speed round. Bad Boys 3 is confirmed. What actor should join the Bad Boys series as a third bad boy or girl?
Bradley Cooper.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Bradley Cooper. Stranger Things 11, Millie Bobby Brown. All right. Trish, I heard you first. 20 seconds begin whenever you speak.
Not only is Bradley Cooper super lovable and super liked by audiences right now, he can do that evil streak. We've seen him do it. We've seen him be incredibly funny time and again, and I think that he would really just nail the comedy that's in the Bad Boys films. He'd do it amazingly, and he'd be an excellent addition to that cast, something that we haven't seen yet in those films.
Joe Starr.
I don't think you need a wacky third from Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. At some point, you need sort of a straight person to bounce them off of. And Millie Bobby Brown is a weird and fun and solid choice for those big personalities. You could change up the formula after all the action and destruction. Now they just have to talk to local kids about crime and the importance of police. And this is a girl that sort of lobs onto them because she's like a fan of cops or whatever and gets sucked into the action.
Do we really want to bring kids into this kind of movie? I feel like you're just asking for things that are going to be triggers all over the place for today's audience right now with the culture and the climate that we're in.
If Millie Bobby Brown can fight a Demogorgon, she can pistol whip a guy with a revolver and then have a snarky quip with Will Smith. I think it's a really interesting choice and a real weird casting decision, a really fun one. Bradley Cooper, we've seen him.
All right. Danielle Radford, give us your thoughts and feelings.
Both great arguments. I do have to say, unfortunately, because Trish was getting somewhere really good and she wound up getting cut off, Joe's argument wound up being more well-rounded just because you managed to talk faster and get more words in there. So I'm gonna have to.
I don't know if that was a compliment, but anyway, I'll take it.
No, it was great. You got to where you were getting, and also the pistol whip line made me laugh. So go with Joe.
Yeah, I thought they were two interesting choices, but I got to agree with Danielle. I thought Joe had the stronger argument, and I thought he parried well with when Trish tried to knock him down in the rebuttal. So I'm going Joe Starr. This is all tied up. Julia, did you have any thoughts on that one?
I liked Joe's answer as well. I wrote down Kick-Ass as being a really great example of when children fight crime. And
yeah, what about Logan, X-23?
Also Logan, yeah, but I also think that there's, the small, scrappy child trying to be a part of a group is something that we haven't seen in a while, like truly.
Yep.
The last example I can think of is West Side Story with the Sharks and the Jets, and that one girl that was like, come on, I want to play too. I wanted to be that child.
I'll have to rewatch that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julia. Okay, we're all locked up at 2-2. Here we
Great
go.
job,
Question
Joe.
number 2. Deuce is wild. 2-2. Question number 2 of the speed round. A Gladiator sequel is in the works. Who could forget Maximus fighting tigers in the first Gladiator, right? So, what animal should the hero have to take on in the Colosseum in the sequel?
A bear.
Okay, a bear.
Got so excited when you said it.
Oh, yeah. Joe Starr?
A Komodo dragon.
A Komodo dragon. Okay, we have the bear versus the dreaded Komodo dragon.
The funny answer.
20 seconds to begin whenever you speak, Trisha.
I think a man fighting a bear is something we've seen in literature, we've seen it in video games, we've seen it in lots of different media as like the ultimate test of can you survive. And in Gladiator, that's what it's about. It's about man at his primal. Can he do it? Just his own self. Are you there? And fighting a bear would do that. Bears are terrifying.
You've seen The Revenant, you've seen a man fight a bear. You've never seen a gladiator fight a Komodo dragon. Komodo dragons are terrifying, they're fast, it's the closest thing you're gonna get to fighting a dinosaur in ancient Rome, and that sounds crazy. That sounds so fun. They've got poison in their teeth. They'll really just mess you up. There's no way to like plan for a Komodo dragon.
I feel like Gladiator needs to be based in some sort of reality to be relevant, and if he was actually fighting a Komodo dragon, I don't think there's any way that our protagonist would survive. He'd be dead. The Komodo dragon is terrifying and it's the most lethal.
What an amazing twist that in the third act of your movie, your protagonist is killed by a Komodo dragon. That's a serious threat. One time there was a Croc Hunter episode and he got into a pit with a Komodo dragon. You saw real fear in his eyes.
Ooh, boy, oh boy. I want to see both of those fights, y'all. Dan Murrell, which one did you want to see most?
Well, as weird as it would be to kill your hero off in the third, it's happened before though. The Komodo dragon is more intriguing to me. I've got to be honest. I got to say Komodo dragon.
1-0 Komodo. Danielle, hello Komodo.
They were both really close, but I have to agree because I think that Joe had that killer line about how we've already seen a man fight a bear. I'm sorry. So I have to go with Joe.
This is the time of the show when Danielle loses it uncontrollably, which always delights me. Thank you, Danielle. Joe Starr vaults into the lead, 3-2. All right, so this is a potential game point. Joe gets this. He goes home a winner.
I know.
Trish needs this to tie it up. Joe, you're always a winner in my book.
No pressure.
All right, here we go. Question number 3 of the speed round. It is 3-2 Joe Starr. Mike Myers not the Halloween killer,
Thank
but
you.
the Saturday Night Live / Austin Powers. Mike Myers says he's still working on Austin Powers 4. Still working on it. What time period would make the better movie for Austin to go back to? The 50s or the 80s?
80s.
All right, I'll argue the 50s.
You got 50s by default. Joe Starr came in first with the 80s. 20 seconds begin when you speak now.
What happened in the 50s? I don't remember. It was a weird time between the roaring 20s and the hippie 60s. The 40s and 50s, something happened. I don't remember. It's a poorly defined time. Whereas the 80s, I know exactly what I'm looking at. I know Austin Powers is going to be in a members-only jacket. He's going to look at an AHA video and go, "Take on me, baby." I know. Like, there's just more to it. There's more to latch onto for an audience. Whereas the 50s, it's like,
The 50s are sock hops and poodle skirts and grease and leather jackets and the T-birds and the pink ladies. I feel like that would be the perfect world for the next Austin Powers movie. We could see Mike Myers do some wonderful Elvis impersonations. We could see Fat Bastard drinking all the soda at the soda shop, all the ice cream floats. There's just such a fun world for them to play in.
Austin was an adult in the 60s, which means he grew up in the 50s, and the fun of Austin Powers is man out of time, not man revisits 6 years ago in his teens. The 80s, he's never been there, so those are weird. He's like, "Reagan, what's the deal, baby?"
The 80s we're about to see with a Wonder Woman film right now, and I feel like we'll have played in that world already. Let's play somewhere completely different with our next Austin Powers film.
All right. Woo! Good arguments, y'all. Danielle Radford.
These are both great arguments. I want to see both of those movies, but Joe really hit the crux of what makes an Austin Power movie work, and that is man out of time, man who has experienced a time he's never been to, and so for that, I got to go with Joe.
All right, that's one for Joe. Murrell, Dan.
The 50s. What happened between the 30s and the 60s? Nobody knows. We'll never really know. Couple things, but that's another show. This was a little closer for me, and I think Trisha was able to pitch some more scenarios rather than just like, here's things that existed in the 80s. She was able to put the characters into actual situations in that time period, which is more appealing to me than just saying, "Oh, whatever, members only." And then that was a little bit. And then the other thing about it, we've done the 80s a lot. We're about to do it with Wonder Woman. That inched me over a little bit. So it was very close, but I actually go with Trisha on this one.
All right, so it's 1-1 for Joe and Trisha. Good
so
grief.
sweaty.
It's so darn close. I feel like Joe had the better overall thesis, whereas Trisha, had the more specifics. And because of that, you know what? It's so close, I got to give it to Trish and send it in to question number 4 of the speed round.
Oh, man.
Controversial call, Hal.
Joe!
Yep.
Let's do it, buddy.
All right, here it is. This is for the game, everybody. Falcon and Winter Soldier are getting their own show on Disney streaming service. What MCU character should show up in the pilot for a cameo?
Captain America.
Sorry, what was the question again?
Falcon and Winter Soldier are getting their own show on the Disney streaming service. What MCU character should show up in the pilot for a cameo?
Kingpin.
All right.
Is that doable? It's MCU.
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Technically, it's all connected.
It's all connected, yeah. There are like newspaper headlines about the battle for New York and Daredevil, so there we go.
Yeah, we'll allow it.
Yeah, we'll allow it. Okay, so we heard Captain America first. Joe as Kingpin. Trisha, 20 seconds begin when you speak.
I think Captain America is a fantastic role model for kids. We've seen the MCU poke fun at it, but I do really think that when we get down to it, if this is a show for kids surrounding Falcon and Winter Soldier, that Cap could bring a lot to the table as far as educating kids, as far as teaching them nice moral lessons, especially in today's climate when people are so heated about having opinions. It might be nice to have a voice for truth and justice out there in this show.
We have an outlet for that already. It's the Captain America So meme. It's there. It's done. Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is the greatest villain in the MCU. I've been waiting to see him. Like, he's a bigger threat to me than Thanos. He's a bigger character than Thanos, and it'd be interesting to see two guys that aren't as powered, closer to street level, that are in the Avengers go up against a threat like Kingpin, and also just Vincent D'Onofrio. Yelling his name. That's my argument.
Kingpin is an amazing character, but I would love to see him as more than just a cameo in the first episode. I would love to see him as maybe the overarching season 1 or something like that. And we know the history that Cap has with Winter Soldier. It'd be really nice to set up that character.
I've already seen them interact with Captain America a bunch. It's in the Captain America movies. Even a brief interaction with Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin would also just remind everyone that these shows are all actually connected, which I feel like people are really jaded about.
Time. Woo-wee.
That was tough, dude.
Yeah, that was real tough. Okay, I gotta go Joe Starr on this because, just seeing them with the street level character and tying everything together, he made it just a little bit more vivid as to what kind of potential that has. Danielle.
I have to agree with you. I'm going with Joe Starr on this one. For one thing, for mentioning how great, obviously, Kingpin is, the fact that they haven't interacted before, and making sure that we still have that connection to the rest of the shows in the MCU.
There you have it. Joe Starr takes it. Wow.
I would have gone the other way.
You would have gone the other way?
I thought that Joe had a very strong argument, but he backed off of it when Trisha brought up the fact that it was just a cameo. So I actually it would have ended the same way, obviously, but we would have had a little drama there.
I appreciate that. Julia, what did you think?
I thought Kingpin too.
Right on.
That's all.
Joe Starr, you take the day. Nicely done, sir. Stepping in at the last minute. What a pro. What a gentleman. Joe, shout some stuff out.
I'll shout out some things. I'm super pumped to have Trisha back on the show. It's been a super long time, and I'm really glad you're here again. And Julia's new to the channel, but very dear to me and a longtime friend. Make sure you guys check out Townies. Where can they see Townies?
I made a show called Townies. It's the OC in the Old West. You can watch all of the first season on Black Pills for free.
Awesome.
Just watch it on your phone if you want. Yeah.
Very cool. Joe,
Thanks.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Hal.
Trisha, well played. You took it to
Thank
the limit.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's good to be back. I feel like the last time I was on Movie Fights, it came down to Joe and I in the speed round, and he kicked my butt then too. So Joe, we will live to fight another day. But well done, especially being the underdog in this fight, having to argue someone else's answers.
They were great answers.
My hat's off to you, sir.
It'd
that
be
was
funny if
super
Jay
well
got
thought.
the part of Kingpin in something. That was like the audition.
Oh my god,
really
that would
cool.
be amazing. That would be amazing. But seriously, thank you guys so much for having me.
Of course.
It's been a ton of fun to come and fight with everybody. Well fought arguments today on all sides, guys.
Heck yeah. Thanks, Trish. Where can they find you?
You can find me on all the social medias at That Girl Trish with no I in the girl, or on YouTube or Twitch at Trisha Hershberger. And I also host shows for Newegg, Kingston, and Geek and Sundry.
Heck yeah. All the shows. Thank you. Julia Prescott, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And I remember one of my first instances of knowing, like, whoa, this woman loves movies is when I saw you in that Big Lebowski dress. That was all pictures from Big Lebowski.
That's right.
At Lebowski Fest.
At Lebowski Fest. Yeah, I went to Lebowski Fest every year for like 6 or 7 years. And yeah, when I ran into you, I forget what you were covering that event for, but...
it was for Screen Junkies, and I was drunk on White Russians.
Great, yeah. I still have that dress. I should have worn that
Really fun
dress.
to edit, Hal.
Sorry, Dan.
It's great to watch how slow.
My
devolution,
That was a great,
de-evolution
yeah.
over the
My
course of the
descent
night.
into drunk. Julia, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Always enjoy your stuff. Please tell us where we can find you. Give some shout outs.
Well, first I just want to echo the sentiments of my compatriots today in this fight. You guys have really made me think to myself, I really gotta, up the bar for my own research, or maybe not. Maybe that's my charm. But I host a podcast about The Simpsons. Everything's coming up Simpsons on Maximum Fun. This sweater that I'm wearing, my sister Katie Prescott designed, actually. So if you Google her, I was like, I should, promote my sister too. It's amazing. You can find it on her shop, I believe, on like TeePublic or something. And then also, I don't know, buy my book about The Simpsons.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
I'm at Julia Prescott on all the things.
Very cool. Thanks, Julia.
Yeah.
Dan Murrell, thank you for holding it down as per usual.
Of course, my pleasure. Always fun on the Dan cam with my fellow Dan, and yeah.
Yeah.
Shooting off facts.
Awesome. Shooting off facts. Need some facts? I'll shoot them off.
Yeah.
And the voice of the people, Danielle Radford. Thank you for bringing the joy and the sunshine and your laughter.
I was gonna say shooting off the people, and I was like, that's.
No.
Right. No, thanks so much for having me. Find me on at Danielle Radford on Twitter. I have a Patreon where I talk about things. I'm sorry, shooting off the facts has murdered me.
Yes.
Did you say Patreon like Skyrim?
Yes.
Bringing it back around.
And I want to thank you for watching. Percival, thanks you too. Owl Nation, thanks. And big thanks to JTE, Billy Biz. I'm at Hal Rudnick on all the things. And don't forget, everybody, no matter what your political affiliation, go out and vote on Tuesday, November 6th, all right? We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.